Ghosts and the paranormal are something that's often tapped into in fiction, but for whatever reason, this side of things is never really brought up in comic books. The majority of comics tell stories of superheroes and multiversal romps throughout their universes, so I find it hard to believe that ghosts don't exist at all. Let's take a look at the Marvel Universe and get to the bottom of just where these sinister spirits are really lurking. Hello and welcome to the show with Issues. I'm Auram, and we're now on week 2 of the unofficially named Spooktober. To stick with the tradition, I think it's high time we talked about ghosts, because, wait a minute, I don't have to explain myself. It's Spooktober, and we're talking about ghosts. It's pretty self-explanatory here. Anyway, enough rambling, let's get started. Investigating a ghost story always starts with some kind of search. In this case, it's a simple Google search. Looking up ghost and Marvel Universe as keywords is probably going to bring you to a wiki page for the supervillain, the Ghost. So, what's his deal? Is he actually a ghost? Can our quest just end here? Well, let's find out. First off, this guy's name is completely unknown. Whenever he flashbacks to his past, which is not very often, his name is always blacked out with no clues on what it could be. We'll call him Fred for the sake of simplicity. What we do know is that before he became the Ghost, he worked for Omnisapient Systems, a tech company specializing in new types of data and data protection. He was somewhat of a prodigy at the company, with the higher-ups taking notice to him quickly. They put him in charge of their next big project where he developed ghost tech, which basically allowed computer chips to enter an intangible state while still maintaining all of their information. Fred was being worked like a horse at the company and eventually broke, taking a week off. When he came back, he finished his project and realized that his girlfriend was nowhere to be found. Fred asked around and realized that she had died in a gas explosion that blew up her entire house. He slid into a deep depression, which eventually caused him to combine his own body with the ghost tech. This let him be connected with all other ghost tech chips, and even allowed him to phase in and out of tangibility. Fred began tapping into Omnisapient's resources, and he found out that his girlfriend's death was actually a murder at the hands of the company's executives. Fred, one by one, offed the executives and slowly cut ties with his previous life. He took on the moniker The Ghost, and became a mercenary-like corporate saboteur. It's also worth noting that the Ghost told this origin to fellow Thunderbolt Moonstone, well after he attached the ghost tech to his body. What this means is that he could be remembering his past wrong, since the ghost tech obviously drove him a tad insane. So Fred, or whatever his actual name is, might call himself a ghost, but he's definitely not one. The dictionary definition of the word ghost basically boils down to the soul of a dead person or a disembodied spirit. Neither of those apply to Fred here, at least not in the literal sense. However, another word commonly associated with ghosts and the like is paranormal. The word really has no specific ties to ghosts, seeing as it just means something that can't be explained by science, but they definitely fall under the larger umbrella here. So where in the Marvel Universe does the paranormal show up? The most obvious would be the world that Doctor Strange likes to peruse, but we'll get to that in a bit. First, we should probably touch on Grandpa, the global reaction agency for mysterious paranormal activity, not whatever you were thinking. They're basically a much smaller version of S.H.I.E.L.D. taking care of paranormal cases, which in the Marvel Universe applies to superheroes for the most part. Pretty much the only reason this group exists is because the mighty Avengers needed immunity from Hammer to operate during Dark Reign, and Grandpa gave them that. No ghosts here, so let's circle back to the Doctor Strange shenanigans. Doctor Strange is well known for his knowledge and expertise in the mystic arts because of his status as the Sorcerer Supreme. The job description for Sorcerer Supreme involves protecting the world from the weird and unexplained, amongst many other things. Take the most recent Doctor Strange #1, for example. There are tons of paranormal beings walking around in the Marvel Universe's everyday world that only a few people can see and eradicate. In fact, that same comic opens up with Strange battling some evil spirits that took refuge in a little boy's nightmares. So if you stretch the meaning of ghost a little bit, these spirits match the description, and we have our first definitive case of ghosts. Except they're never really called ghosts, are they? If you really do want the most definitive answer possible, then we need look no further than Warren Ellis's Moonight run, specifically the 3rd issue. Issue 3, titled Box, opens on a couple in the dark night streets of New York City. One of the two starts to hear a music box and complains about how loud it is. The other says that he hears nothing, and shortly after this, they're quickly assaulted by a group of 4 translucent green beings. And no, not green beans, that'd be ridiculous. Anyway, Moon Knight responds to this situation by trying to put the punks down, but his punches have no effect. The gang beats Mark to a pulp until they've had enough, disappearing into the night. Mark consults his multiple personalities for help on why he couldn't touch them, and Khonshu responds by basically saying they're ghosts, duh. Khonshu then goes on to remind Mark that he's accrued an entire basement chock full of Egyptian artifacts over the course of his life, and that he's sure there's something down there that could help him. Mark finds a new suit that basically lets him, well, punch ghosts. So that's what he does. He beats on the 4 ghosts until one of them is knocked out and the other 3 flee. Mark tracks them to an abandoned warehouse where he finds the 4 boys' skeleton rotting along with a music box where the remaining spirits are hiding. After realizing why the ghost stuck around, Mark grabs the music box and drops it in a nearby river, putting them to rest. So there you go, our definitive answer brought to us by the Egyptian god himself. Ghosts are not so alive and well in the Marvel Universe. I actually found it pretty interesting and slightly funny that the concept and literal version of ghosts is so hard to track down in the Marvel Universe. You have your obvious answers to it, like the ones in Moon Knight, and your more vague answers, like that of our old buddy Fred. But even then, the ghosts in Moon Knight are only called ghosts because Khonshu said so, and he's not the most scientifically minded guy, if I do say so myself. So here's my question to you. Do you believe in Marvel ghosts? And hell, since it's still Spooktober, tell me some of your most chilling real-world ghost stories in the comments. Oh, I should also probably do one last quick announcement here. I'll be attending Dallas Comic-Con this weekend at the Irving Convention Center. If you happen to be in the area, come on by and say hi. I'll probably be tweeting about it, so follow me over there to stay up to date. And of course, don't forget to answer those earlier questions and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. That all being said, thank you so much for watching. Next time I become an alternate universe version of an alternate universe version of a character and then travel back in time like 60 odd years and just kind of live in that time for a while.